Ew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Yep.
yeah. Ah, God, it's hard. It's hard cleaning symbols sometimes.
You are in the
Oh,
room.
oh, we got to do the whole internet YouTube. Hey, I didn't see you there. uh,
Oh, hey.
I didn't know I pressed record and set a camera up. I didn't see you.
Yeah. I hate when that happens.
So, welcome everyone to Kiss Meets Podcast 4K, the second coming. I'm one of your hosts, Phantom of the Opera.
And I am also present.
Uh, me
I'm
too.
just gonna open you up.
Well,
Savannah's back.
I'm
She has
back.
recovered from the butt cancer, and at least we think so.
let's hope.
So this week we are jumping back into the Black Sabbath, of course, featuring Eric Singer, the Eternal Idol. But before we get into all that, man, there was some exciting news that popped up for once. Instead of a bunch of sad news to report, I ran across some really surprising news on Facebook posted by Kiss. Um, it looks like we are finally going to get that damn documentary once and for all that we have been hearing about for years now. So, a matter of fact, all of us in the Kiss Army have a chance to be a part of it. So, real quick, I'll just kind of read through the post here. Attention, Kiss Army. Kiss is set to be the subject of an upcoming feature documentary and wants you to help tell their story. This will be the definitive documentary of Kiss, but in order to make the film that you deserve, the producers are conducting a global hunt for rare and compelling Kiss related media. This could include, but not limited to, never before seen footage of the band on stage or off stage during the 70s, still photographs or video of the band in the 70s trying to conceal their identity, unscripted, candid, or revealing moments between band members on stage or off from any era, obscure local or international TV or radio interviews or news reports from the 70s, 80s, or 90s. We want to help the world see the band through your eyes. Don't miss this chance to become a permanent part of the band's legacy. History is literally being made. To upload your video, audio, or photographs for consideration, please visit the following website. Be sure to include a brief description of your submission in the message section. And the website is thekissfilm.wetransfer.com. And if I remember, I'll put that here on the screen too. So yeah, so it's looks like it's going to be called History. Um, and according to the screenshot, where it's showing the computers that are working on editing, it says coming fall of 2020. So
Wow.
super super exciting to hear that. We're going to finally get that Kiss documentary, and again, we all have a chance to have a little part in it if we have any of those type of items that stop yelling that we're looking for. And so yeah, and it's going to come this year. So right around the time that we're probably going to be seeing them, we might be getting that documentary right around the same time. That's going to be so cool. So really exciting news to hear today for once. I was glad to not hear some depressing news for a change. Um, so yeah, just wanted to get that out there, and you know, so get on that website if you got the stuff, send it in. Be a part of it. Be a part of history. So anyway, back to the show. Again, Black Sabbath, the Eternal Idol. So of course we got our comments and everything, our usual house cleaning, should we say?
Yes. Also, that brings to mind for me, where's Kissology 4?
Oh yeah.
You know, us fans, we always want more than we get. All right.
I know, right?
Yeah, yes.
This
So,
documentary better be like 8 hours long.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, even that wouldn't cover it all. They need to just provide a VR experience of their entire career, lasting the rest of your lifetime and beyond.
at the same time, I would like to think that Kiss themselves have some unseen type of things along that stuff that they can provide. I hope they're literally not looking for the fans to provide everything. So I don't know. Let's hope that that's not the case.
Yeah. Find out. All right, so some comments. Going to our White Tiger episode.
Yeah.
We do have.
Just had to kill the mood, huh?
They brought it up for me.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Miss 10 over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A few comments from this. A couple here from Robbie Stars, or Robbie says, "Wow, this album is really dated, but unbelievable guitar work by St. John. I have never listened to this ever, but I heard it now, and I put it aside of the Vinnie Vincent Invasion debut album, but with horrendous vocals. After finding this album on YouTube, I'm only going to rate the album because I have no idea what the names of the tunes are. For 80s heavy metal, I'll rate it a 5.5. If Mark St. John would have gotten a Joe Lynn Turner type of vocalist, I definitely would have rated it much higher." He also says, "Hopefully you guys redo the Kiss albums again, especially now because there's a lot more fans of your podcast and the results will probably drastically change. Plus, I would rank mini albums differently now. Rock on."
Cool.
Yeah, I'm sure we all would.
Yeah.
Yep. I already don't even have any clue what I voted them before, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
certain they would be totally different.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's
Yeah, we do still plan to do that at some point down the road. Once we get a little closer, we'll figure out how exactly we want to do it. But I think that'll be a definite thing coming for sure.
yeah.
Coming fall of 2020. No,
Holy crap, we better start doing episodes every day.
we want you guys to supply rare footage of Kiss Meets the Pie. No, us trying to conceal our identity. No, that makes no sense.
Yes. We've also got a comment from Jay Rucker. Now, I got to admit, Jay, you confused the absolute crap out of me right here. And I actually began to tell Savannah that she had a friend in liking the White Tiger album because on our White Tiger episode, Jay Rucker says, "I love this album. I give it an 8.5." And so I was like, wow, Jay liked the White Tiger album too. But then his rankings are for Fraley's Comet. So, so that got her hopes up for nothing. So
I'm very sad now.
everybody hates that album but you. You're just gonna have to deal with it.
You know what?
Well, you know what? We were sad that you weren't a part of the Fraley's Comet because I was looking forward to hear your thoughts on it. What did you think of it?
I liked that album until the song Dolls, and then I was like, what is this? Overall, though, it was really good. Like, I was surprised because I'm not the biggest fan of Ace in general. His vocals. Like, his vocals have always been weird to me.
Okay,
His voice is just kind of weird to me. But he's a good guitar player, and overall, I mean, it was really good. Like, I liked it. I think I gave it, I think I gave it a 4 because it's still,
I don't remember.
I like the other singer. Who was the other singer on it?
Richie Scarlett, right?
Yeah. I like that guy a lot better. I was like, I
Richie
wish
Scarlett?
this guy
I don't remember.
would have sang more on it.
No, it was
Oh.
Tawny Worth.
Okay. But
Well,
yeah, that doll song, I was like, I don't even understand. Like,
that's Steve
but
McGowan's favorite
it
song.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, it creeped me out.
He
Like,
did
I was
defend
creeped
it
out
pretty
by
hard.
it.
Well,
But
forget
the
I asked you
Into
that
the Night
question.
song, Into the
What's
Night
that?
was good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
forget I asked you that question. You just ruined my year.
What?
You just ruined my year with your answer to that.
What'd you say?
I said, forget I asked you that question about Fraley's Comet because now you ruined my year.
Oh, okay.
Way to go.
I'm sorry.
Get out, man. Oh.
Well, Jay liked it. That's what matters. So he wanted us to know some facts. Into the Night got to number 27 on the U.S. charts. The album got up to number 43 on the U.S. charts, number 17 in Sweden, and number 38 in Canada. So Sweden really liked that album.
Ah.
Into the Night was the best one. I liked that one a lot.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
one was great.
Jay's,
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jay's top three were Rock Soldiers, We Got Your Rock, and Into the Night. That didn't change our top three for that album, but it did bring our overall rating to a 7.1 out of 10, up from a 6.8.
Sweet. Ha.
So,
Yes. Jumping forward to last week's episode, I've just realized that we're missing a comment. Ah, here we go. Okay, it said 3 comments, but I was only looking at 2. First of all, we got William Curry, who says, "Great show, thank you." Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, indeed. Which we did comment on that. Very astute of you. We've also got a comment from Jay on this episode as well. He says, "I've got my tickets to see Kiss again in Columbia, South Carolina at Colonial Life Arena on February 11th, and I can't wait." He also sent us a picture of the arena. Definitely.
Wow, that's very close, man.
Yeah.
Are they going to be anywhere else around you, like later in the year, like maybe swinging around somewhere close to you? Because, man, that's an awful early date to see them for possibly the last time.
Yeah. He also says, "Once they announced Diamond Dave as opening act made me even more excited. Then when I saw Dance the Night Away from his Vegas residency, I thought, oh God, no." If I wasn't a huge Van Halen fan, then that would be my piss break.
Oh,
Colonial Life Arena is a great arena for any kind of event. I've only ever seen one other concert there, and that was the Def Leppard Journey in 2018, which was my third concert, because the 2 others before it were 2 Weird Al Yankovic shows. Awesome.
nice.
I know Kiss is playing in Greensboro, North Carolina a few nights before, so I might have to pull through and go to that one also at Greensboro Coliseum. They're also playing Atlanta and Raleigh later in the year, but I'm probably not going because I don't really enjoy amphitheater shows.
Why are you over there hurting yourself, Savannah?
I don't know.
Do you not like Weird Al that much or something?
I love Weird Al. I got so excited that I hurt my hand.
Oh, okay.
That's weird that Jay brings that up. I actually just asked a coworker today if he had ever heard the Weird Al song "Genius in France." I gotta tell any of you if you haven't heard that song. It's one of his originals. It's not a parody, and it's his masterpiece. It's hilarious.
It is.
I have not heard that song.
Oh, that's good.
I think it's on Poodle Hat, but it is worth the listen. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite songs. Let's see what else we got here. Somehow, oh, I know. I added Robbie Stars into the White Tiger album. I was trying to figure out where I got this from. I forgot. Robbie said he put a 5.5 overall on that, which did actually bring White Tiger's overall ranking to a 4.3 out of 10, up from a 4. So a little bit better there. Jumping over to our Facebook, we have a comment from Steve McGowan, thankfully correcting our idiot mistake from the last episode. Monique Fraley is Ace's daughter, not his wife. Duh, we knew that.
Yeah.
We were
What's her name?
Stupid. Monique.
Monique.
Yes, she was present at MTV Unplugged, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the time frame. That's why it wasn't clicking that, oh, it's his daughter. I don't know.
Yeah. He says Monique sang backup with Ace on Dolls at the end of the song, so that was her there.
Okay, I wondered that.
The song was inspired by all the dolls that Monique had in her room when she was little, and Ace decided to write the song of the childlike mind of his daughter playing with her dolls. Ace also wanted to write the song for Monique at the time and have her sing on it with him. Maybe this info might help not make it sound so weird to you guys. I gotta say that does help, but it's still creepy.
I mean, that's deep, man. Oh, there's a lot of dolls in her room. I'm gonna write a song about
it.
Yeah.
Deep.
Classic Ace. He also says, really interesting that Ace released Fraley's comment on his birthday, April 27th. Didn't notice that. That's cool.
Huh.
Another note, Ace originally tried to get John Waite from the Babies to be his singer, but John would never return his phone calls, according to Ace. John came out with his hit song Missing You a year or two before Fraley's comment. So,
See, that's why he hit the big time. He felt like he was too good.
Yeah, man, Ace.
I, I, I just picture Ace back then, like hiding amongst all of her dolls, like ET or something. Like
Oh.
you just see his face sticking out.
And he just says "ack" at her. Just makes her
Hey,
jump.
Curly.
No, he does that creepy laugh he's got.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
His laugh makes me laugh, though.
And then Steve also says he's not sure when he's coming back to the podcast. Steve, come on, man.
Oh, he responded to my comment.
Yeah, he says I'm not sure yet when I'll be on there. You know you want to. Let's see, which one should he be on? You know you want to be on Peter Chris Cat number 1. You know you want to be on ESP. You know, Kiss the box set disc 3, only disc 3. Not allowed any other ones.
Or when we revisit the Laura Nero album.
Yeah, please, you can take my place for that one even.
I don't know, Steve. I might just randomly call you up on Skype one of these days and force you to come on.
Yes.
Then where will you be?
All right. We also got Steve and Rochelle McGowan's picks for The Eternal Idol. Excuse me. Steve rated this 7 out of 10 overall, and his top 3 were The Shining, Nightmare, and Glory Ride. Rochelle voted this an 8 out of 10, and her top 3 were The Shining, Hard Life to Love, and Born to Lose.
Okay. Nice mix up there.
Robbie Stars just reacted to one of our polls with the O face. Robbie.
Robbie.
All right, so let's talk about the polls real quick before we jump into the album. Figure out which ones were from last week. Yeah, here we go. All right, so fairly predictable results here. Still kind of interesting. I still kind of wish some of these had been a little closer than they were, but last week's polls were somewhere between Heaven and Hell versus Car Jam 1981. Somewhat unsurprisingly, Car Jam 1981 won there. That was 66% to 34%. I expected that one to be a little closer, but happy with the result at least. The second match was Within versus Cold Gin. Called it even when we posted it. Unsurprisingly, Cold Gin destroys their 79% versus 21%.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Wow.
again, I voted for Within. Cold Gin is a great song, but I love Within, and I knew it wasn't going to get the fair shake there. I really would have loved to have seen that get closer, but not surprised by the outcome of that.
Yeah. And, again, I don't know why, but a lot of people, like, hate Within or they hate that album in general. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
No, I really don't. Then our final match was Rain versus The Devil Is Me, which I was very interested to see because, as we've discussed, a lot of fans very, very, very much dislike Carnival of Souls, and at least an equal number of people dislike Monsters. So I thought, well, what's going to happen between these two? Rain just absolutely crushed, 75% to 25% there. So again, I'd say fairly unsurprising, but I was kind of curious there what would happen. A lot of bashing on Monster in the comments there. That was interesting. So this week's polls, get over to Facebook and make sure you let us know what you think. These polls have been getting amazing response, so thank you to everybody who's voted on that, and thank you even more to the people who are listening to this or other episodes because they discovered us through those polls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I say, like since we've been on Spreaker and then it's spreading to other platforms, it seems like each episode is getting more and more plays and downloads. Every time I go to upload a new one, I always take a look at the stats. So again, yeah, thanks. Keep it up, man.
Yes. Yep. And then of course, we ought to thank Matt Porter and everybody from the Kiss Room for allowing us to kind of nudge our way in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not telling us, hey, post your stuff on your own page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do appreciate it. So this week's polls, get in there and vote. We've got the first match, which we could probably take this one right now. I guarantee you how it's gonna come out. It is "You Matter to Me" versus "I Want You." Again, these were randomized. If "You Matter to Me" wins, I will eat a hat. I will eat a hat
On this
hat.
podcast.
Yes. There's no way.
Now,
Similarly,
now you're gonna have a bunch of people like grouping together to make that happen.
similarly, but not quite as drastic, Silver Spoon versus Parasite. And then finally, Mr. Blackwell versus Secretly Cruel, which I personally think is the most interesting matchup of this week.
Yeah.
Definitely be curious to see how that one comes out. Actually, while I was talking just there, Robbie Stars commented on that one saying Secretly Cruel is one of my favorite Asylum tunes. Mr. Blackwell is my least favorite off The Elder.
Oh, jeez.
Very.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell, one of my favorites off the Elder. I'm sure I ranked it fairly high. And then again, Secretly Cruel is becoming one of my maybe three. I'd say maybe it's in my top three now as far as Asylum.
Definitely. Definitely. I've always thought that one had a decidedly earlier Kiss vibe to it.
Yes, yes. Especially
Like,
that opening riff, you know.
it's very similar to the Mr. Speed riff.
See, again, it's like that whole thing of, when we did the original shows and, talking about going back to them. Like, I heard it in the car the other day and I was like getting these thoughts like, oh, yeah, this. And it's like, oh, we've already done it.
Yeah.
But, we're going to do it again probably. So maybe I'll remember that, hopefully.
So make a note and put it on your face.
Yeah.
On your face.
On my face.
Yeah. We also just, again, just while we were talking just there, got a comment from Gregory Muse on the "You Matter to Me" versus "I Want You," who's saying, "I threw a sympathy vote to Peter." So it's already doing it right now. It's at 36 total votes, and it's 81% to 19%, which is already better than I expected it to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's not too shabby.
yeah.
You might be in trouble, Luke.
All right.
Well, especially once this episode goes up.
Yeah.
Crap. All right.
He's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally deleted the poll. It's over
Yeah.
now."
It's crazy. I didn't say that.
We need to try to do a live show one of these times, just to see how it would work and how that would go. If we got like a lot of live feedback as we're going with comments and things, that'd be interesting to see how that would work.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for that. You guys ready for album info?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The Eternal Idol is the 13th studio album by English rock band Black Sabbath. This
Wow.
album was released November 1st in 1987 in the UK, and then a little bit later in December in 1987 for us over here in the USA. This was recorded from October 86 to March 87, recorded in Air Studios and Battery Studios, both of which are in London, England. This was produced by Jeff Glixman, Vic Coppersmith-Heaven, and Chris Sangarides. Not sure there. All three of those fairly big name producers there. I was kind of just taking a look around to see if I could figure out what exactly it is that they did.
They're English.
Yes, very
English.
very English. So Black Sabbath kind of back to form here. This was actually intended to be a Black Sabbath album, unlike their last album, Seventh Star, which we talked a little bit about in that episode, since Eric Singer also played on that one.
Yep.
As we know, that last one was supposed to be a Tony Iommi solo album and ended up with the label Black Sabbath. This one had a lot of really weird stuff relating to it. The front cover is a reenactment of an actual statue called the Eternal Idol. What we see on the cover of this album is actually two actors in paint, bronze paint.
Wow.
They couldn't secure permission to use an actual photo of the sculpture, So they had a couple of actors reenact it. Interestingly, the paint was toxic, and both models were hospitalized after the shoot.
Oh my God.
Holy crap! Did it have like lead in it or something?
You gotta wonder in that time period. They also look naked, so that's probably very uncomfortable for
Yeah.
if they broke out or something.
I mean,
Um,
that's like the whole story from The Wizard of Oz, you know? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
and how many years later and they still got it wrong?
yeah, yeah.
Wow, I'm looking at the cover now. That's just wild.
It doesn't look like actors.
No, not at all. Wow.
Uh, Lots of weird lineup things happening. Of course, this was kind of typical for 80s Black Sabbath. This does not include almost anybody from Seventh Star except Tony Iommi and Eric Singer. The album sleeve credits Dave Spitz as the bass player, but actually all of the bass parts were recorded by Bob Daisley, who should be a familiar name to most of you. He was famous for being Ozzy's bass player for a long time. Um,
I'm getting screwed.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a percussion credit for Bev Bevan, who was a touring drummer. I don't think he ever recorded an album with Black Sabbath, but he did tour the Born Again album, and he toured this album too, I think. He just did a few cymbal overdubs on Scarlet Pimpernel, the instrumental.
The
Everything
hell?
else was Eric Singer. Um,
What'd you do on the album? I tinged a cymbal.
but yeah, and on the instrumental, that everything's just kind of like,
Yeah. Gee.
like Eric couldn't come back in to do that, I
It,
guess.
it probably took like 20 takes just to do that.
Yeah. This was also supposed to be recorded with vocalist Ray Gillen. Uh, he ended up being replaced halfway through the album. Now, there is a deluxe edition of this album with Ray Gillen's vocals still intact, but they were disappointed with how they were coming out, and apparently he was claiming that Black Sabbath's management wasn't paying him. So they got rid of him. They had Bob Daisley completely rewrite all the lyrics, and they brought in uh, Tony Martin to come in and sing. So actually, that was what Chris Sangarides did. I think he just had the Tony Martin come in and redo the vocals right before the album was supposed to come out.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
so Tony Martin actually only sang. He didn't write anything. Didn't write any of the lyrics. None of the. I would assume he wrote some melodies, surely, but
Hmm. He
uh,
nailed it, though.
yes, absolutely. He became a member of the band, of course, after this and was on several albums. Um, and then another interesting lineup thing that happened was when they were going to tour this, they actually hired Geezer Butler to play bass for the tour, which would have been almost the Born Again tour lineup with Tony Martin instead of Ian Gillian. But then Geezer backed out over that they had booked dates in South Africa, and there was some big political thing going on at that time, and apparently Geezer Butler held some pretty strong opinions about it and just didn't do it.
What happened to the other guy?
What other guy?
The date.
Oh, Bob Daisley. I guess he
Yeah.
just didn't want to tour it.
Oh, okay.
The same thing happened with Eric Singer. Eric Singer did not tour this album. In fact, it almost makes you wonder, since they had Bev Bevan come in to do overdubs, it almost makes you wonder if Eric left in the middle of tracking the album.
Yeah.
It's possible. Because I'm not sure, but it seems like he would have been possibly working with Alice Cooper at that time, too.
Right.
Yeah.
This would
Or
have been
even Lita.
because we're only a couple of years before he joins Kiss. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
definitely.
actually, you know what? Maybe that's when he went on that. Wasn't that around the time he did Paul's solo tour? Or was that like '89?
That was '89.
Okay, so something happened, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just jumped over to Eric's Wikipedia page to see if there was any specific thing.
So real quick before I forget, because speaking of that last Sabbath album we did, and we talked about Iommi's 2002 album, did you guys ever get around to listening to that?
No.
Because I kept totally forgetting to ask, and then it popped in my head since we were doing this album.
Yeah, we need to do that. I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Just curious if you guys had heard it yet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
good stuff.
forgot about that. We need to do that.
So I just read here shortly after finishing tracking for the Eternal Idol, Eric was invited to tour with Gary Moore in support of the album Wild Frontier. Then
Okay.
that, yeah. Directly after that, Ray Gillen, who was supposed to sing on the Eternal Idol, asked him to join Badlands.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Which that's an album further down our list.
hmm
That is
Another one I'm kind of excited to listen to because I've never heard the whole thing.
Yeah.
right. I remember I started listening to it at one point, and I remember liking it, but I didn't get all the way through it at the time. And then, of course, Eric left Badlands to join Paul Stanley's solo tour.
hmm
So yeah. Real quick, personnel for this album, of course, we've got Tony Iommi on guitar, Eric Singer on drums, Bob Daisley on the bass, Jeff Nichols on keyboards, Tony Martin on lead vocals, and the only thing left from Ray Gillen, it was him doing the sinister laugh on Nightmare.
Okay.
It looks like it says something for some 2010
Yeah, that's the deluxe
deluxe
edition
edition.
that I mentioned, where the his vocals remain intact. Might have to go check that out too. I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
how different it sounds with Ray singing.
Yeah. What'd you do on the album? I laughed.
Laugh. So yeah,
He probably did it like he
that's
was
what
like
it's.
drunk or something and did it, and he's like, "What?
Yeah.
What are you
I'm,
talking about?"
I'm assuming there were no singles because, especially at this time, Sabbath wasn't getting very much love, I'm sure.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem that way. I'm
Yeah.
not seeing any singles listed here. Um, there's a little bit of chart performance, but both are pretty sad. It's 66 in the UK and 168 in the US.
Jesus.
So, which that sucks. This is a good album. That's
Yeah.
they'd had a couple of pretty hard flops in the recent years, so people weren't really paying attention.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, they just lost a lot of people once Ozzy and Dio had left. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, it's like we were saying, I think we were saying it in that last Sabbath episode. I'm just kind of curious what the overall feeling was amongst the fans like at that actual time because obviously I was too young. I didn't even know who Black Sabbath was at that time, and kind of curious to know like what the fans truly were thinking of about them at that time. So,
Right.
Yeah.
all right, so good to go.
Yeah.
All right, so we start off the album with The Shining. This is number 5 for me. Um, so we open up with the acoustic intro, and then kicks into that signature Iommi type of riff again. Um, Immediately, really digging the vocals here, and I could tell a little bit of a Dio feel to them, and the way they were delivered and everything, it definitely almost had that Dio feel. I did feel like there was a bit too much of an effect on the vocals on this song, just my opinion, but I do like the breakdown section. Just when I thought it was heading into the solo, all of a sudden, it kind of slows down. Iommi goes into a very melodic riff. Eric's kind of just laid back, on the ride and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, the beat changes up. Tempo starts to come back up, and then eventually, it just kind of goes from there. Song fades out, but pretty strong opening track. Even though it's my number 5, kind of in the middle, but I really was impressed right off the bat with this song. So
Yeah. Everything you just said, I pretty much said as well. It's also my number 5, right
okay,
in the middle. It's a very solid beginning. It was a very good opener for the album. And I said that too. I love that Tony's voice is very similar to Dio's. I didn't know it was a different guy at first.
mm,
Because when he first started singing, I just thought it was Dio. And then you could tell the difference after he sang for a little while. And I asked Luke, I said, "Who is this?" Because it did. It sounded a lot like him. I
right,
did like the layered vocals, though. The layered vocals, they were almost had this eerie quality, and I always love that. Anytime it's
mm,
eerie sounding, it's cool. Um, and I said that too. I like how the beat kind of slowed down in the middle. The guitar work it had a lot of feeling. It had a lot of emotion in it. You felt that. And then the beat picked back up. It continued on. It was natural. It didn't sound, like how it went from one tempo to another. It didn't sound out of order or weird or anything like that. But yeah, it was a very good start for the album, I think.
100%.
Yep.
This one's actually my number one. So just blowing the load right at the beginning. Um, yeah, the different album beginning from what you'd expect from Sabbath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have surprised me, I think, if Eternal Idol had opened this album. Just the
Yeah.
way that starts and the way that when the song comes in.
And usually that's kind of the generic thing to do, the title track. Usually the first or second track, usually.
Right, and it just felt like the Sabbath. So I appreciated that this was a little different than what you would expect.
hmm
And yeah, just man, I forgot how much I like Tony Martin's voice. I think I talked a little bit about it, probably in the 7 Star episode, and then in last week's episode when we were talking about doing this one.
hmm
That I liked his voice, and I remembered him having a good voice. But geez, yeah,
Yeah.
so reminiscent of Dio. I got to tell you guys too, if you're interested in listening to other Sabbath albums, there's a live album from a little bit further down the road than this called Cross Purposes Live. Um, very, very solid but forgotten Sabbath live album. They actually do some of the Dio material, and frickin' Tony Martin nails it. I mean, absolutely
Wow.
nails it.
Mm.
Yeah, that guy is maybe one of the most underrated vocalists.
It's kind of surprising that a band like Black Sabbath doesn't have like a legendary type of live album like a lot of these bands have. Like, yes, they have live albums out there, but they're not looked at in that same vein as, say, like Cheap Trick at Budokan and obviously the Alives and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Made in Japan, all that.
Yep.
It's kind of weird that you would almost think Black Sabbath would be right in that list of classic live albums.
Pretty much all of them they did kind of fell flat.
Yeah, like even to the recent years, like when they put out the live stuff, like for the final tour and whatnot, it just kind of fizzled. It was it's something to
They
put out.
they ought to have done one earlier in their career with Ozzy.
Oh yeah,
That,
absolutely.
that probably would have done really well because I'm fairly certain Live Evil with Dio was the first one they had put out.
Yeah, they should have made like a little down the road, like after maybe when Dio was even still in the band, or even after, just put like a two. One record is the Ozzy stuff. Record two is the Dio. Live Evil, whatever. But two record set, bam. That would have been a cool kind of way to do it. Eric with a driving, punch you in the face type of beat. Simple, but just the way he was delivering it, you could tell he's hitting them hard. Um, Man, I got to say again, here we go with the solo thing, but it's kind of needless to say, but I really, really did like the solo on this song in particular. Starts out with kind of an Egyptian feel to it, and then he just takes it into like a nice melodic solo, and you got some synth stuff going on, for adding a little ambiance to it and stuff. So I don't know. Sometimes I kind of lean more towards those, melodic type of solos more. It just, I don't know, it just kind of hits you a different way sometimes, but definitely enjoyed this track. So yeah, this album has already highly impressed me, and 2 tracks in already.
What number did you say this one was?
4.
Okay. This one was number 6 for me. Um, and again, we think alike a lot of the times. The drums, they're hard hitting in this song. They don't sound really complex or complicated, but I mean, it hits you right in the chest with that beat that he does.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel like if you were listening to a surround sound and all around you, I mean, that would just hit you from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Tony's voice in this song, and then throughout the rest of the album, it kind of went back and forth between Dio and like a Don Dokken kind of thing. Like I got both vibes from that, and I love, but I mean, two of my favorite singers right there, and it was like meshed into one voice, and I mean, I just loved that so much. I was like, this is so awesome, finally, like, and I was hooked.
Yeah, because I mean that first track to me was the only one that I got the Dio feel. Like I felt like every track after that, he just kind of had his own thing going. But that was my ears. But
Yeah,
so I definitely see what you mean though. How like, it's already sounding a little different there.
yeah, yep,
Number 7 for me on this one. I like this one just a little less than the opener. But again, the chorus was super catchy, just like The Shining was. And as we discover, Tony Martin slash Bob Daisley, I guess, very good at that throughout this whole album. That catchy chorus, and that's a big thing for me in music. Even if the rest of the song is complex and crazy and weird and nothing ever repeats, if it's got that awesome catchy chorus, I'm right there with it.
yeah,
I'm glad you guys brought up the drumming. I thought that too, and I figured I couldn't quite put a finger on it because I said something about Eric Singer's drumming is catching me on this one. It's simple,
Yeah,
surprisingly simple, but it works for the song so
yes,
well.
yeah,
yep,
And then I also, same as you, I noted a great solo from Tony Iommi. That was
hmm
definitely one of my favorite solos on the album.
yep,
It just it just goes to show you don't have to be doing blast beats or a bunch of fast double bass for it to be heavy per se. You could be playing just a simple beat like that, but it's the way you're playing it. The how hard you're hitting. I mean, it's just you just can't help but bob your head to it, and
yep,
you just feel it.
yeah. If I'm
So
listening to it and I can feel it like hitting me, I love that. Even if it's just a simple beat, if I
yeah,
can feel it hitting me right in the feels, man, it's like that is awesome.
yeah. It's like I try to picture that what it would be like in the live setting, but
Yes.
I guess that never happened, at least with Eric. So,
Yeah.
but man, it's like, what if?
Yep.
Yeah.
So next up we have Hard Life to Live. This one's number 7 for me. Um, fairly straightforward rocker here, if you want to call it that for, but in Sabbath terms, I guess so. Um, I really like in the bridge section, the first one, it starts probably like right around the minute 40 mark. Kind of lays back, but then it comes right back at you with another really cool riff. And man, I just had to note here, Iommi's riffs always keep my attention. You know, no matter what Sabbath I'm listening to, it's just like he writes so many catchy riffs. Like every song, there's something that catches me. I find myself paying attention more to what he's doing on this album as to where I normally pay more attention to what the drummer's doing every time I listen to stuff most of the time. And at the same time, again, to give Eric some credit, had I not known that he was on this album, I wouldn't have been able to guess that it was him on the drums.
Yeah.
There's no bit of signature Eric type of things on this album as far as certain types of fills and all that stuff, and I mean that in a good way again, because I do enjoy when musicians can be diverse like that when they're on different projects. You don't want to just hear the same type of playing on every project they appear on. So
Flavor song.
yeah, I really highly impressed with that. So it definitely shows, a broader spectrum of, Eric's, talent. And, this is one of them albums that he should be, um, more praised for, like say at the expos and whatever, but, yeah, so great performances.
Yep. This one was my number 3, and it's actually called Hard Life to Love. I thought it was Live too, and
Me
then when
too.
I looked it up, I was like, wait a minute, that says Love. And then I asked Luke, I said, does it say Love on yours? Because I thought it was Live, and he goes, well, I have Hard Life to Live on here. And so
What?
then he looked it up, and it's Hard Life to Love. I thought it was Live too.
We all just saw it wrong the first time.
Yeah, because I mean, Hard Life to Love is not something that you would like put together. You know what I mean? Like you would
Yeah.
think. it's a hard life to live, But yeah, this
Ah,
yeah,
Weird, eh?
right. I thought that was weird because I saw live too. I had typed in live. That's what I typed, and I was like, wait a minute, I
yeah,
typed it
because
right there.
it was listed as that on my file when I was listening, but I'm looking at a scan of the back cover and it does definitely say love. So
Yeah.
wow.
Uh, but yeah, again, this was number 3 for me. I love the guitar flow in this song. It was something definitely to headbang to. This one had me headbanging over here.
Oh yeah.
Um, and at this point, I was like, he's kind of hard to understand when he sings. His voice is amazing, but it's kind of hard to understand sometimes what he's singing. So I started to look up the lyrics at this point, and the lyrics in the song are way more serious than I thought just listening to it. And I mean, they're in your face, pretty in your face with the message in it, and I loved it. I mean, it was so good.
Oh
So then
yeah.
I thought, I'm gonna look at the lyrics to all the songs now when I listen to it.
Yeah. There's another one down the list that I felt had a great message too. So
Yes, this one I love the guitar. I loved everything about this one, and the lyrics were probably my favorite part of the song in particular.
right on.
Um, Interestingly, this one is my number 9. Here's what I like about this though, because this hasn't happened in forever. I don't think it's happened to me once in the Second Coming stuff so far, at least that I'm remembering. I felt bad putting this one last because I still liked it so much. It felt wrong to kind of give it that negative stigma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, right.
Um, it had an interesting feel. Again, I felt it was a little atypical for Sabbath, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It was nice to hear them do something different, and it was still recognizably Black Sabbath.
Yep.
The main riff, killer main riff, just like you were talking about with Iomi there. Um, I liked this one a little bit less than all the other ones. That was all. I don't have anything
Yeah,
actually bad to
yeah.
say about it.
Right. I mean, it's just like our favorite Kiss album. Unfortunately, one of them has to be last.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so next up we go to Glory Ride. Hopefully that's not a typo and it's not really Glory Hole. Uh,
That's Kiss fans out there.
Yeah.
this one's my number 2. Um, Synth heavy right away. Again, I would say I want to say we mentioned this on the last Sabbath album too. That if you would if you were to call this a ballad, this would probably be the one. Like again for Sabbath terms. Um, Needless to say again, but great vocals on this track. And I think so far this is my favorite Iommi solo on this album. Um, nice breakdown goes into the acoustic, and then we get a little fist pump section, doom doom,
Yes.
and then right back to the chorus to take the song out. The fade out though felt kind of sudden to me. Not sure why they made that decision. I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with the total time of the album. They just had to chop a little, a few extra seconds off for whatever reason. But it just felt like it sort of just came out of the blue and just faded awful quick. But yeah, number 2 for me though.
Yep. This was my number 1.
Nice.
Uh, it was. I put the song all around is amazing. I feel like this would be a great song to have play like in a movie during a war or fight scene. And the solo is very tight. It's together. It fit the song perfectly. There was a lot of variety to it, which is what I love about solos. A lot of times solos are just one simple run. You know what I mean? But this
Mhm.
one had everything in it. I feel. uh and then that drum solo thing that you were talking about, it just, I mean, it hits you right there in the chest, and it's like taking a last stand kind of beat is what I put in
Mhm.
there, because that's exactly what it felt like this is the last stand and we're going to fight. It was so awesome. Like, I loved it. This was my number 1 because I just all around, like, I had the whole scene playing out in my head.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 3 for me. I loved that riff as soon as it came in, the
Yeah.
opening riff of the song, and then when everything came in on top of it. Wow, very interesting song too. Yeah, there were a couple of bits I wasn't super fond of when it would kind of break down, but geez, yeah, overall perfect. The harmonies in the chorus were right on, and yeah, I had to point out again, Tony Martin is just freaking killing the vocals.
Yeah, amazing. Another probably one of the best performances on the album too from him.
Yeah.
Next up we have Born to Lose. This one's number 8 for me. Um, the solo caught me off guard on this one. I thought it, at times it had kind of an Ace feel to it, to be honest. Which, to the best of my knowledge, is probably the first time I've ever said that about, Tony Iommi and any of his solos, because I definitely wasn't expecting that. And because to be honest, on this track, I was enjoying it. I'm not saying I was bored or didn't like it, but I was just kind of finding myself not really thinking of too much to say. And then that solo hit, and I'm just like, whoa, like, wait a minute. I had to scoot up to the keyboard and start typing. But yeah, just kind of weird, but a little bit of an Ace vibe. And, again, kind of since we just did Forelli's comment last week and we got Ace coming right up, kind of all ties in a little bit.
Yeah, this one was my number 2.
Number
Um, number 2. It was fast-paced energy from the beginning. Like, and I always like that. Like, it keeps the energy for it being the middle of the album. This is a lot of times this is where it kind of starts to like you're kind of like just sitting there fading off, But this one it helped keep your attention because
Right.
it was so
Yeah.
fast-paced and it was there. And the solo again, I thought it was a very solid solo. It had a lot of energy, and I like that it went straight into the main rhythm of the song so well. Because sometimes at the end of a solo, it doesn't quite flow right back into the main rhythm, but that one, I mean, it fit so perfectly together. Like it felt like it was meant to be that way. And then there was lyrics in this one that stood out to me. The ones it said, "You think I'm chasing shadows in the dark, well, I'm not born to lose." And I love that because it's basically saying that even though you think my dreams are foolish, I'm not going to give up. You know?
There you go. That's a great.
Yeah,
That's a great message right there.
yeah. And I was like, it just stuck out to me like that was a cool way to put that. I think because that's how I interpreted it.
Hmm.
That you may think it's stupid, but I'm not giving up. You
Yep.
know, that was so cool.
People that think, oh, you're never gonna make it, you're never gonna do it. Why do you keep trying that?
Yep.
If you stop, you ain't gonna do it. But you gotta keep trying. So.
Yep.
Also, my number 2 on this one. Man, right when he started, I thought it was Dio for a second. I I knew 100% it wasn't, but just right when it started, I was like, oh, so much like Dio, it's weird.
Yeah.
And that just got me thinking. Uh, this album, I think just all of it, and this song is what kind of got me on this line of thinking, is at least on par with the stuff from the Mob Rules album. Uh,
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
uh, Heaven and Hell is one of my top albums of all time, and I'm not sure this quite reaches that level of every song is awesome. Mob Rules I liked, but not as much, and this album might even be a little bit above Mob Rules as a whole, and that got me thinking, man, it's too bad they didn't just get Tony Martin right after Dio left. You
I
Yeah.
know,
know. Yeah.
how much different would Born Again have been and Seventh Star? Because I'm not a big fan of Born Again, and I was really disappointed by Seventh Star when we reviewed it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If it had been Tony singing, that could have saved either one of those.
Yeah. That probably would have had a lot higher rating for me at least
Yeah.
if it would have been him singing it.
But in reference to the song itself, at least, not a huge fan of the parts.
Those were
Uh,
kind of weird.
yeah, but the chorus of this one really, really caught me. I liked the harmonies that he did, and then another reason it's so high for me is thank God it didn't fade out. It
Yeah.
Yes.
really ended.
I think this was the only one on the whole album that actually ended, though.
It might have been.
I think it was because I
I think
looked at
so. Yeah.
and I think this was the only one that had like a solid ending and it didn't fade out.
I feel like if Geezer Butler, like even just him, if he was on this album, that would have made this album that much closer to the heaven and hell to stand up, because with what he could have added to this with his bass lines, and
Yeah.
it would have just made it that much more over the top.
Yep.
Okay, next up we have Nightmare, number 3 for me. So this one starts with an ominous, kind of a low level like growl. I don't mean like a vocal growl, but like in the bass frequency.
Yeah.
You get like a synth bell sort of sound. Kind of sounds like something out straight out of The Exorcist in a way. And then all of a sudden that fades out, and then we're quiet for a few seconds, and then all of a sudden everything just kicks in. Um, and then this is another one of those just kind of hangy, heavy type of Sabbath songs, and just real sludgy. The lyrics seem to be about battling the devil. So this is the one I was referring to. Is I really like the message in this song too. Um, it it almost feels like it could have fit in like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, with the whole like nightmare theme, and fighting the devil or demon. Um, and then around that 2 minute 40 second mark, it changes up. Um, Iomi's just kind of doing a riff, and then we hear that laugh, which now we know is what's his name. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh, I wonder if maybe that's sort of a little nod to Ozzy, for his Sabbath years, because Ozzy was always known for kind of doing that same sort of laugh in some of his songs, and especially live. So who knows? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But this is one of them Sabbath songs, along with some other ones in their catalog that for these people that always sit and think that all these guys are a bunch of devil worshippers. This is one of them songs they should listen to. It might open some people's eyes, because that by far is far from the truth. So yeah, great stuff there.
This one was my number 9, and it's just like with Luke's number 9.
Yeah,
It's not bad at all. I loved it. It's just one of them had to be number 9, so it was this one for me. Not a
right.
bad song. I didn't dislike any of the songs on this album at all.
Yeah,
I like the little eerie, that pretty cool little eerie thing at the beginning. However, when it ended, I thought, oh, was that it? Like, is that all that was? Like, it was this little like, and then it started, and I was like, oh, okay, well, Luke actually had to look because we thought maybe it was the end of Born to Lose. So we were like, wait, was that the end of the last one or the beginning of this one?
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, but the little eerie thing, it kind of, like you said, it reminded me of a Nightmare Before Elm Street kind of thing. Like it was the beginning of the nightmare,
hmm
And I mean, the lyrics perfectly describe what having nightmares is like, you know.
oh
Um,
yeah,
and I think after that laugh, the beat picked up a little bit. It got a little bit faster. But however, I think the reason why this one was last for me is because when he actually sang the word nightmare, I wish they would have just layered the crap out of that. You know
mm.
what I mean? Because that would have been like so powerful. That probably would have made it like number 1 or 2 for me if they had just layered the crap out of it. And
Nightmare, keeping me
yeah,
awake at night.
yes.
That's some
So
fun
yeah,
stuff.
like I said, it's nothing wrong with it. I loved it. It's just one had to be number 9, and it was this
Right.
one.
Yeah, I mean, what was I going to say? I forget. Go ahead, Luke. It might come back to me.
Yeah. This one was my number 6. I liked the faster parts of this song a lot better than the slow. The slow parts kind of dragged for me, but the fast parts were really good. I gotta tell you too that when that keyboard thing at the beginning started, I was excited, man. My finger was hanging over the one button. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome!" And yeah, that fade out freaking killed it. I didn't, and I mean that in a bad way.
Ah.
Did not like that. When it faded out, I was like, "Blue ball, come on!" And then the song came on, and it was slow, and I was like, I don't know.
That's
But
what I was going to get at, because not only did it fade, but they left us hanging for a few
Yeah.
seconds. So it got a little tense, because you're like, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
Instead of just going right into it.
Yep.
But I don't know, man. I love that. That to me, that's like the signature Sabbath right there. Just that sludgy, hangy, slow type of with that heavy riff over it.
You know what they should have done? Right
What?
after that eerie thing like stops, they should have had the sound of like a squeaky swing, and then
Oh,
started it.
God.
That would have been cool. Let's re-record it and put that in there.
Yeah. Time travel.
Yes.
Next up is Scarlet Pimp Hat. I meant Scarlet Pimpernel. I meant. So this is my number 9, and again, what you guys said. Here's another classic instrumental from Miami. Just him playing some beautiful acoustic, while there are some epic effects going in the background. This is a pretty short, little piece, barely over 2 minutes. So again, that's really the only reason I put it at 9, since it's more so just an interlude per se, for the next track, and obviously it's not a proper song really, so that's really the only reason I put it in the number 9 spot. But it's another great, you know, right up there with like what's some of them classic ones? The hell's that called? I can't think of it now. Laguna Sunrise or something like that. He's got a couple other kind of similar pieces on some of the older albums.
I
So
wonder what would happen if you played them all together.
that's a good idea.
We
Just
should
like
do
with
that.
just like doing the Fractured Mirrors, playing those all back to back for
Yeah,
race.
we should try that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
would be pretty cool.
but again, not saying it's a horrible track. Just had to give it that number 9.
Right. This was number 4 for me. Um, when I first read it, I had to like blink and look at it again because I was like, "Does that say pumpernickel?" I thought it said Scarlet Pumpernickel, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And then I was like, "What is Pimpernel? What does that even mean?" uh,
Did you find
but
out?
no, I did. I should look up the meaning of that. Look up the meaning of that while I'm talking.
That's what I'm about to
um,
do.
Again, though, I said the eerie quality. Anytime a band that I really enjoy has eerie qualities, it always is one of my favorite things. Always. Because it gives me goosebumps and it touches me in a different way. Like, and,
Like Ace's Dolls.
oh, no. It was a short song, and I wish it would have been a lot longer because there was a lot of feelings, a lot of emotion in it, and I just wish it would have been longer. I was disappointed when it ended. I was like, no, not already, because it was so good. Like I would have loved to. But now I'm curious about them other ones. If you listen to them together, if it doesn't form one whole thing, like I want to know.
That is true.
Yeah.
So a pimpernel is a plant, a small plant with creeping stems and flat 5-petaled flowers.
Is it red?
Well, the Scarlet Pimpernel is actually a novel from 1905, and written by Baroness Orczy. Um, so basically, I'm assuming that's where he got the title from, was um, inspiration from that novel.
Hmm.
Came out in 1905.
Wow.
Wow. It was a while ago. While ago.
Yeah, I only barely remember that year.
I know.
Yeah.
This was my number 4 also, actually. Um, although all I can think about is Tenacious D, so thanks a lot, Jack Black, for that. And Dave Grohl. I just picked Dave Grohl prancing around as the devil for that. So
Well, at least
thanks.
you didn't think it's a pumpernickel.
Yeah. But yeah, for a band like Sabbath, which has always kind of been known for vocalists, you know what I mean? That when a lot of times when people talk about Sabbath, they're talking about Dio or Ozzy. Uh, there aren't a huge amount of Black Sabbath instrumentals, so it's always cool to get one. And yeah, I really like this one a lot. The way he layered the acoustic guitars and it created this great melody, really cool stuff. But yeah, of course I wish it had been full song length.
Yeah. as I rip my hearing aid out.
Yeah.
Hello?
From
Can you hear me now?
what? For me,
I almost said it again.
for me with Sabbath, and again, all due respect to all the vocalists Sabbath has had, to me the riffs were always the first part of Sabbath that I thought were the most important, and then the vocals, and then of course that killer rhythm section with Geezer and Bill or whoever was playing. But yeah, that's always kind of how I had viewed Sabbath all these years myself.
Yeah, for sure, same. But you know how
Yeah.
people seem to pay more attention to lyrics than they do about music, and
No.
yeah, more attention to vocals
That
than
doesn't happen
or
ever. What are you
vocalists
talking
than
about?
anything else.
Which, by the way, backing up on Nightmare, the basis of that song and lyrics, it kind of put me in the mind of a certain song by that certain band you're speaking of, off of that certain Decadence album.
Yeah, yeah. Couldn't imagine what you're referring
Silence.
to.
No. Okay, we got two tracks left already. Um, Next is Lost Forever. This one's number 6 for me. This again, this is sort of an oxymoron, but this may be the heaviest song on the album. It just starts off with just a heavy chug on the guitar by itself. Something's about to happen. Eric kicks in, doing some kind of galloping double bass throughout pretty much the whole song. And at first, it sounded kind of odd because it almost sounded the way the double kick was recorded and mixed. It almost sounded like it was a bit off time, like with what he was doing on the rest of the drums. But I don't know. Then by the end of the track, I guess either my ears just adjusted to it or they something changed. But it felt more, you know, correct by the end of the song. So, but yeah, good track there, number 6.
This one was my number 7. I love the fast pace of this song. It was a very nice solo, and the lyrics were really cool. It didn't quite stand out the way that the other ones did to me, but it was. I mean, still, it was a great song. Like, I think that this one would have stood out a lot more to me if the other ones hadn't been better, you
Mm.
know. But because the other ones, I just like the other ones better. This one didn't quite stand out as much. But yeah, again, I love how fast paced it was. That solo was, I mean, it was kicking, man. And the
Yeah.
lyrics were cool in this one too. Like, so I didn't have anything bad to say about it at all.
Yep, number 5 for me on this one, and yeah, I love that upbeat riff. Just like you said, when that starts, you feel like something's about to happen.
Yeah.
It's suspenseful, and then yeah, when it all came in, it was like, oh yeah, nice. Um, but yeah, I definitely caught what you meant about the double bass too. It almost felt less a part of the drum track than other bass drums throughout the album, like he had recorded it separately or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like it was kind of laid back in the mix too, and you didn't quite feel it, but you could sort of hear the beaters hitting, and you know what I mean. It just kind of, I don't know, different.
It
Maybe
was
that's why it didn't quite stand out to me because it's just that kind of was a little off putting, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why it didn't quite stand out so much.
it's cool that they let him do some double bass though. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
nice to hear that in a Sabbath song. That's another thing.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely Sabbath isn't really known for is double bass. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this song did have kind of a flat feeling. I was really excited at the beginning of it, and I did like it, but it got a bit repetitive and it felt too short. Felt like there should have been a little bit more to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, we come to the end of the album here with the title track, "Eternal Idol." If you've been keeping score, then this is my number 1. This is a fantastic album closer. Again, signature, eerie, dreary type of Sabbath song, but heavy in its own way. Now, this track, I tell you, man, again, giving Eric all the credit in the world. I had to look up the info on this album as I was listening to this song because I would have bet money on this that it was Vinny Appice playing drums on this track because Eric just totally nails his style on this particular track. And again, just that difference of his playing on this album. And I would have sat here and bet $20 or whatever, like, oh, that's Vinny. There's no way that's
Yeah.
Eric. But sure enough, so again, another epic album closer, and this is I would have to say this is my favorite closer of all the Second Coming episodes now so far. So yeah, Eternal Idol.
This one was my number 8. I like the slower groove that this one had, but it definitely reminded me of an Alice in Chains song.
Really?
Yes, a little bit. Just because they always did that slow kind of like grungy sound almost, and that kind of had this. And I mean, I love Alice in Chains, so I loved that. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
didn't bother me at all.
It's like, where
Um,
do you think they got it from?
yeah, it's like this song definitely had those elements to it, I think.
Hmm.
But I feel like this song would have been better if it would have been more in the middle of the album instead of the end.
Yeah.
And however, I think if they would have had a solid ending to this song, like a cutoff instead of the fade out, I think it would have been perfect for the closing song. But because it faded out, like I almost wish that um, was it Born to Lose that had the cutoff, right?
Um.
Born
Geez,
to
I don't
Lose is the
remember
one that
now.
had the cutoff, I think.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That one would have been better, just because I like it when it's like a definitive end, instead of a fade out. Because when it fades out, it just makes me want to hear something next. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so if it would have had a solid cutoff, I feel like it would have been perfect for the end of this album. But I kind of wish it would have been more in the middle if they were going to just fade it out like most of the other stuff. But that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, I mean, it was a great closer compared to some of the other albums that we've listened to for sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, like we were saying earlier, this probably could have or should have been the opening track, or even at
Yeah,
least the second track being, the title track again. But
yeah,
so again, it's kind of that whole thing where, yeah, we could have flip flopped some songs here and there, and I think it still would have worked as well. But
yes,
definitely a lot of interesting ways to listen to it.
right,
This was also my number 8. Man, that riff right when everything comes in, that was great. Very similarly to Lost Forever, when the riff starts and you're like, oh man, what's gonna happen? And then everything kicks in, and that's like that's Black Sabbath. That
Yeah.
right there is classic Black Sabbath, slow, grindy, and scary.
yeah.
Hmm.
That is exactly what they set for, and that is classic.
I think that's
Um,
probably why it sounded like Alice in Chains to me, because that's how they are too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Slow, grindy, and eerie. Like that describes them pretty well too.
Um, I
I
did kind
mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I did kind of wish it would quit starting and stopping. I think that's
Yeah.
one put this one low on the list for me is that after the first couple of times it started to kill the vibe a little bit. Um, but yeah, for the most part, it's great, absolutely classic Sabbath song. And then yeah, just the end with the fade out, just yeah, that killed again for me. I was like, come on, I put it in all caps. Come on, guys, you ended your album with a fade out. Really?
But again, like the snare tone, just it was exactly Vinny's snare tone. I
Yeah,
mean, it's amazing.
I meant to say something about that. That didn't occur to me until you say that, but yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, that was the first thing that was like, ding, is that Vinny? Because I mean, even the fill he did was a Vinny fill, and like, just you know, again, just major props and kudos to Eric on that. So,
Yeah.
so overall, and I was kind of surprised, because again, this was my first time hearing anything on this album, period. So wasn't quite sure what to expect. Again, you always have that certain kind of expectation, especially being a Sabbath album. But kind of surprised that it hit me this much that I give this one an 8. I really did not expect to be giving it such a high score, but that's where it's at. And I definitely like this one better compared to that last Sabbath album that we covered. It just felt and sounded better to me. Um, I don't want to say that one felt like slopped together per se, but it just didn't feel as whole as this album. And again, like you said way back doing the info, this was meant to be a Sabbath album, so it felt more like a band album instead of just some guys playing with him. Um, so again, this was very different territory for Eric. Great to hear. Good solid IME riffs, signature Sabbath structured songs. There was absolutely zero boring moments on this album. It felt like the listen went by fairly quickly, considering most of the songs were in that 5 minute plus range. This is another one that, excuse me, I will be adding to the list of vinyl to be on the lookout for. I only have this one on the computer. So if you haven't ever listened to this album, definitely do so. And if you have listened to it, but it's been a while, put it back on and listen to it again because it's one that I would probably definitely for sure revisit.
Yeah, I was honestly overall surprised because with the last Sabbath album, it was good. It was not bad, but when I heard the title of this one, I thought, oh, I don't know if I like that or not. That sounds kind of corny. And then I loved it.
Mm,
Overall, I gave it a 10.
nice.
Yeah, I
See
was
that this one I can agree with.
Yes. See, I was surprised. I think the reason why I gave it a 10 was because I was so surprised by it, was
Yeah,
because of how much I liked it.
yeah.
Everything about it, like you said, there wasn't a dull moment on this whole thing. The guitars and the drums, the vocals, they were all on point. The only thing that kind of disappointed me was that you didn't really hear the bass that much. I
True.
wish
Yeah.
it would have been a little bit more like, yeah, that bass riff was awesome in that song. None of
Yeah.
that stood out to me, and I wish that it would have. That was the only thing that kind of disappointed me about it was that there wasn't enough bass in it. I don't think.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was kind of the studio standard at that time.
Yes, it
Unfortunately.
was. But his vocals were probably my favorite thing about the whole album. Like they just that Dio Dawkins quality that they had to him. Two of my favorite singers, and I mean they were always strong. It was always in your face. The lyrics and this were very deep, and I was able to connect with them so well. And there just wasn't a song that I disliked on it,
Yeah.
and I would definitely listen to it again for sure. I'd like to have my own copy of this
Yeah.
listen to because it was. I mean, just because I was so surprised at how great it actually was. Like I was
Mm,
so shocked by that because I honestly did not think I was gonna like it that much, and yeah, it was great. So yeah, definitely gave it a 10 for sure.
yeah. I mean, is even just that similarity to Dio, it kind of made me wish that we were covering a Dio era Sabbath or even a Dio, solo.
Yes.
Had any Kiss members worked with him, it kind of made me wish we were doing a Dio related album. But hey,
I really wish that Eric had played on more of these Tony Martin Sabbath albums. I'm
oh
Yeah.
my God, yes, yes.
definitely gonna have to go take another listen to all of those again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I also gave this an 8. Absolutely my favorite of the ones that we've done in the Second Coming stuff by far at this
Yep.
moment. So yeah, first off, and without a shadow of a doubt for me personally, far superior to Seventh Star. I think we all agree on that. With
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seventh Star was okay, but this one was a different level. Uh, I think I would I've talked before with other friends about if you could get a time machine and go see any tour that you wanted. Of course, the Metallica and Justice for All tour comes up, and they Iron Maiden, Seventh Son, or Somewhere in Time. And honestly, I think I'd like to see this. Of course, I'd love to see Heaven and Hell tour. There's a lot of different Sabbath eras I'd like to see, but this is an unexpected one. I would love to go back and see this tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially knowing that they used to hit like Hair Arena back in them days. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
We were born in the wrong era.
yeah.
I know, like we are lucky to be in the area we are, but we did miss a lot of cool stuff too at the same time.
Very,
Yeah.
very true. Yes, and even though this album had a lot of absolutely classic Sabbath moments, which it's hard to argue from a musician's standpoint that a Sabbath moment could be anything other than Tony Iommi, who's been the only constant member of that band since the beginning.
Right.
And everything was great. The songwriting was great. The solos were great. Tony did as good a job as he did on any Sabbath album. But man, did Tony Martin steal the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Couldn't stop saying it throughout the whole review. Tony Martin is an amazing vocalist, 100% my favorite part of this album, which surprises the crap out of me as primarily a guitarist to say that I like the vocals the best. And it was nice to hear the mix. I thought they did a really good mix of classic Sabbath and then unexpected stuff you wouldn't think you'd hear on a Sabbath album.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
A good way to me, I would think, to please those fans that you can't please, the ones that say every album sounds the same, or the opposite end of the spectrum, which is why can't they just make the Masters of Reality again, you know? But yeah, so I thought they balanced that really well. Only a few complaints overall. As per usual with albums we review, there's just way too many fade outs. Right
Yeah.
ending freaking songs, please.
Yeah.
Especially the last song ending with the fade. That really kind of drove it home for me and made it so that I couldn't really say that I felt this was a great album closer just because of the fade out. The production lacked just a little bit, I felt, in certain aspects, like you were saying, the bass.
Yeah.
Didn't feel loud enough. And Bob Daisley's an excellent bass player, so I'm sure whatever he was doing that we didn't hear was great.
Yeah.
Wish we would have heard him better. And then, strangely, the toms stuck out to me. I didn't think Eric's toms sounded very good. They felt too dead.
Mm-hmm.
They just felt like smacks instead of tones. And stuff like that fist bumping bit there, where he just that should have
Yeah.
reverb carried that, and it shouldn't have had to. It should have had tone in there. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, though, still super listenable. No complaint I have is anything serious at all. It's hard to come up with anything bad to say, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is one of the best albums we've reviewed for a while. Certainly one of the best Black Sabbath albums that they had in this era, because anybody that knows Sabbath stuff knows that this was a pretty turbulent time for them, and they put out a lot of misses around here. So this was definitely not one of those. A forgotten jewel in the rough among some kind of stuff.
And not to mention that there were plenty of bands struggling at this time just as well. I mean, Kiss, of course, Rush. I mean, a lot of bands were in that little rut during this time frame where they weren't necessarily writing the greatest stuff, but it wasn't horrible either.
Right. So nice to hear this. But yeah, and then of course, just in a closing remark regarding Tony, he definitely should have been Sabbath's vocalist for longer than he was.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have heard
How
more
long
stuff
was
with
he?
He's actually had 2 stints with the band. He joined for this album and was with them until I think maybe 91, which is when Dio came back and they did Dehumanizer. Then they did I don't know, like maybe a little tiny thing with Ozzy or something. And then Tony came back and was on another couple albums and then departed again when they got back with Ozzy for the reunion era.
I'd like to listen to more of his stuff.
Yeah, he's on, I don't know, 4 or maybe even 5 Sabbath albums.
Yeah.
For that matter, putting this up against the Kiss album of this same time, which would be what, Asylum, Crazy Nights?
Crazy Nights would be closer, yeah.
You know what? I might give this album the edge over Crazy Nights, to be honest.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I think the key word for this was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
Because we were all kind of surprised how much we liked it, how high we ranked it. So yeah, I mean, there you go.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah. Especially after some
It's
of
always better to be surprised by something than to be disappointed by something.
Oh God,
Especially
yeah.
when you were expecting to kind of be disappointed in the first place. I love that.
And I just realized, like, I'm pretty sure. God, it's only been a week and I forget, but I'm pretty sure I ranked this higher than I ranked Fraley's comment. And I love the Fraley's Comet album.
I think you're right. Yeah, this might be the highest rating you and I have given to a Second Coming album.
I believe so, yeah.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. And even Stephen Rochelle
True.
ranked this both high. This was a lot higher than Rochelle usually goes, I think.
Yeah, very true.
Um, the tallies. I've already got this tallied up. You guys ready for all this?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go ahead and knock those out.
Yeah. Somebody jump in here and give us another vote. We got a couple of ties we need to knock out. It's nothing.
Ah,
Yeah, we always end up with that almost every time. It's nothing important, but still, we'd like to just knock it. This did end up with an 8.2 out of 10 average overall, which is
Wow.
uh,
very cool.
definitely shoots this one into first place by far. Uh, yeah, nothing else we've done in the Second Coming series comes even close to this. Second place is actually Fraley's Comet with a 7.1, which is still more than one whole point under this. So that ought to tell everybody something. This definitely ranks higher overall than several of the Kiss albums when we ranked them all. So
Wow.
Wow.
interesting,
Hmm.
Yeah.
interesting that turned out that way. Um, for the actual rankings, since we had two different ties, our last place for today's episode is seventh place, and that is Scarlet Pimpernel. In sixth place, Eternal Idol. Tied for fifth place, we've got Lost Forever and Ancient Warrior. Tied for fourth place, Hard Life to Love and Nightmare. And our top three for this album: in third place, Born to Lose. In second place, The Shining. And in first place, Glory Ride.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, like you were talking about the tone of the toms and whatnot. It just reminded me too. I think it was the first song. It was like during, I want to say during the chorus. I don't know if you guys caught it, but didn't it sound like there was this weird like low end thing, real quick under like the lyrics
Yeah,
that would hit every time.
like an 808 or something.
Yeah, it was meant to be, but yet it didn't quite stand out as well either. And every time I hear it, I'm like, is that supposed to be what that sounds like? Yeah.
Hey,
So, huh?
I just looked up on Amazon the vinyl edition of this,
Yeah.
and it's $65
What?
because it's a collectible.
Ah, bull.
I'm dead serious.
There's got to be a more affordable one on like, say, Discogs or something or eBay.
Because I was like expecting like 14, 15, not $65.
Well, I know they had they had just went on a big string of reissuing a lot of the Sabbath, especially around this time frame.
Right.
I think maybe it's been a few years at this point, but it still feels new. So I'm not sure maybe if this is one of them that got reissued.
I think the YouTube videos we were watching were saying 2001 remaster, or it was something over
Uh,
There's an autograph signed one for $230.
so it looks like the newest listing on here is a 2015 Japanese reissue. Um, as far as like vinyl, though, I don't. Yeah, as far as vinyl, it goes back to 1988. So basically, just the original. Hmm.
Yeah, they have two different ones. The first one is unavailable, and then the second one is three used offers, and they're $64.99. Yeah, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm looking on Discogs, and they are even those are since it hasn't been officially reissued on vinyl. It's all the originals. Well, there's some here for like 25 or so. That ain't horrible.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely would like to get a hold of that too. Still trying to keep my eye out for the black and blue like that first one and but so yeah, so again get those votes in so we can break up these ties here. Um, next week is liable to be a fairly shorter episode because we go right back to Ace Frehley with the Life Plus One, Frehley's Comet. But it's only like I think it was like a 5-6 track EP basically. So still going to be a cool listen. And then we go, staying with Ace for a little bit because after Life Plus One, we go back to Vinnie Vincent Invasion finally for All Systems Go. And then we are right back to Fraley's Comet with the second sighting. And then guess what? We got a Kiss compilation after that. So can't wait to get into that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this was the last Sabbath album we get to cover for this whole round of stuff. No more that feature Eric or anything like that. So, but yeah, definitely glad we got to cover this one because probably who knows if I'd ever listened to it if it wasn't for doing this show.
Let's
So.
let's do a special breakaway edition where we listen to the Tony ones.
Tony Martin with Laura Nero.
Oh no.
Yeah. Woo.
All right. So I think that wraps it all up. I don't think there was any other newsworthy things that's popped up in the last week. So again, exciting news to hear about the documentary Out of the Blue. So be sure to submit your items, your photos, videos, anything that, along those standards if you got it. And definitely cannot wait to hear more about that documentary as the year goes on and as it gets closer to hopefully coming out, and hopefully it does not get pushed back again.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe we'll get that Kissology 4 sometime soon as well. That would be cool.
Good.
All right, so we're gonna get out of here. Get those votes in. Break up the ties. Keep voting on them polls. And then, of course, get your votes in for Life Plus One, Fraley's Comet, and All Systems Go for that matter. Let's go ahead and jump ahead.
Jump the gun, so to say.
Yeah, don't get under the gun. You jump that gun.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Until next week, take care. We'll see you.
Peace out.